Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Dalton Mayor and Council meeting of Monday, June the 22nd, 2026. A quorum is present and it is a minute past 6 p.m. This time I would like to ask Andrew Parker to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Council members, you have before you an agenda. I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion. I have a second. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, is there any public commentary this evening? Okay. And anyone wishes to come forward, they're welcome to do so at this time. If not, we'll move on. Okay. All right, next we have presentations, staff reports. Andrew?
There are none this evening, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Council members, you have before you minutes of the mayor and council meeting of June the 15th, 2026. I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion. I have a second. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, under unfinished business. Item number 3, second reading ordinance 26-10 to hear the request of Debo's Diner Investments LLC to rezone from general commercial C2 conditional to general commercial C2 conditional conforming to Dalton Gateway Corridor Overlay District, a tract of land totaling 3.42 acres located at 525 and 527 South Tibbs Road, Dalton, Georgia, parcels 12-260-16-000 and parcel 12-260-03-000.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and council members. This is a little bit of a unique request because the request had to go through the planning process as a result of some conditions that were placed upon this parcel back when it was rezoned in 2008 in Ordinance 08-11. Within that rezoning ordinance back in 2008, there were several conditions placed upon the property as it related to being rezoned to general commercial C2. One of those conditions was that the property owner convey a quitclaim deed for the tract that runs around the eastern boundary of the site to separate the residential area from the commercial lot. The other conditions were that the property would never be used as a convenience store or a retail gas or service station, not developed for use as a quick service restaurant or a business that offers a drive-through service. And then this condition 4, which is the subject matter of the rezoning request, shall include contemporaneously with the development of the property, the relocation of the property's access to Tibbs Road to a location directly across from the second western right-of-way curb cut on Tibbs Road north of Walnut Avenue and the permanent closure of the original access. And then the final condition was to do with signage. We have presented this afternoon as a substitute from what was presented in the packet that was published through Municode, a proposed ordinance for second reading. As you might recall, at the June 1st meeting, Gene Garland talked about the petitioner's request to locate a new driveway to the north and make the existing driveway to Steak and Shake a right-in, right-out only. But when staff further reviewed the ordinance draft, the one that was included in the packet, the ordinance draft just removed that condition 4 that had to do with the driveway. So we were somewhat concerned if the project does not come to fruition and 10 years down the road there's a new project, that the request as the petitioner made it to the Planning Commission that's before the council for consideration be memorialized in Ordinance 26-10. So the substitute that I've provided a copy this evening in section 1 talks about, the second paragraph talks about that the condition 4 is repealed and deleted, And that's what the copy in our packet includes. The revised, which is what's before your consideration this evening, it says it's replaced with a new condition 4 as follows, and I'll just read this out. Prior to any further development on the property, the current access to the property on Tibbs Road shall be modified in compliance with all requirements of the City of Dalton and the Dalton Public Works Department standards, such that it will be right in, right out only, and the new access shall be constructed in compliance with the requirements of the City of Dalton and the Dalton Public Works Department standards, approximately 150 feet north of the current access. So this memorializes what has been presented to the Planning Commission, and they provided a positive recommendation to the council for consideration, and the staff has also reviewed this. I was going to ask Chad to come up and speak to, there were some questions that arose from the first reading about the site distance. So I've asked Chad to speak to that this evening.
So the existing conditions of what's proposed in the old ordinance would require or would lend to have about a 200-foot site distance, which goes against engineering standards. The kind of mutually agreed upon location that we've discussed with the consultant or the design engineer on it would provide roughly about 400 feet of site distance in each direction. So we're essentially doubling the site distance by allowing this entrance to be moved and putting it more in line with today's engineering standards. So our recommendation is to grant the driveway location change.
And again, normally the council's not necessarily involved with where driveways go, but these were conditions that were part of the rezoning back in 2008, which is why it's got to go back through this formal process, and any modification would require council action.
All right, are there any questions or comments on this item?
Well, I appreciate all the hard work they put into making this come to an amicable solution, and it looks like it's going to improve safety and traffic flow and be very helpful. So thanks for everybody that's been involved in this. And I'd like to move to approve.
All right, there is a motion to approve. There is a second. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Bearden, for coming this evening. Item number 4, second reading ordinance 26-12 to amend Chapter 6 of the 2001 Revised Code of the City of Dalton, Georgia, captioned alcoholic beverages by striking, repealing, and deleting the definition of event center set forth in Section 6.1 and replacing it with a new definition of event facility by striking, repealing, and deleting the definition of restaurant in 6.1 and replacing it with a new definition by striking, repealing, and deleting only subsection A of Section 6.10, captioned possession in public places, and replacing it with a new subsection A by striking, repealing, and deleting only subsection E of Section 6-110, captioned local caterer or concessionaire, preferred caterer and concessionaire, by striking, repealing, and deleting Section 6-70, captioned eligibility for pouring license, and repealing it with a new Section 6-70 by striking, repealing, and deleting Section 6-107, captioned disqualification generally, and replacing it with a new Section 6-107 to amend Chapter 26 of the 2001 Revised Code of the City of Dalton, Georgia, captioned businesses, by the addition of a new Article 11, captioned event facilities, to provide for an effective date, to provide for the repeal of conflicting ordinances, to provide for severability, and for other purposes. Jonathan?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. This ordinance, as you'll recall, before the first reading, we had a work session and went through in detail all of the provisions in it. In terms of the alcohol code, there's just some modifications to some of the language and some minor changes to definitions and things of that nature. The biggest change is the event facility portion of this ordinance, and it creates a licensing, a way of licensing event facilities in the city of Dalton. Since the first reading, we've made a few changes to it, and I'd just like to go through those. Under section 26402, the fee for the license has been reduced from $2,000 to $500. There is also a change that we made recently to section 26403 that just provides that grandfathered establishments would not be required to comply with all of the application requirements that aren't pertinent to the grandfathered establishments. They would need to do those. And then the section on grandfathering that was in 26407C has been moved to 26414, and it has been expanded such that any establishment that is currently operating as an event facility but doesn't meet not only the distance requirements, but doesn't meet those facilities that don't meet parking requirements or are otherwise operating in a legal non-conforming status with respect to zoning, land use, building code, fire code requirements. All of those facilities would be grandfathered under this new change. And so those are the major changes. Be happy to take any questions.
All right. Are there any questions or comments on this item? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And to echo Councilmember Mock's comments on the hard work, really grateful to our staff and to the Minor Firm for their work. Thank you very much for all of the departments that weighed in on how to best improve this. All right, item number 5. Second reading, ordinance 26-13 to amend chapter 54 of the 2001 revised code of the city of Dalton, Georgia, captioned Fire Prevention and Protection by deleting Article 2, captioned Fire Prevention Code in its entirety by the addition of a new Article 2 to provide for an effective date, to provide for the repeal of conflicting ordinances, to provide for severability, and for other purposes. Chief Daniel?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This item is for the update of Chapter 54, Fire Prevention and Protection by adding clarifying language related to the alcohol ordinance, as the city attorney was saying, and Administrator Parker. The purpose of the update helps define specific occupancies, more clearly strengthens the connection between local, state, and fire marshal standards, and ensures that our fire protection language is applied in a consistent and uniform manner. With that, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
Are there questions or comments on this item?
I do have a question. Does this ordinance have a grandfathering provision also? Do we have non-conforming lofts right now?
No, sir, we do not have any non-conforming right now.
Good.
All right. Any other questions or comments on this item? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
There's a motion, a second. Is there any discussion? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item number 6, under new business, resolution 26-18, adoption of language access plan. Andrew?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and council members. This is a new plan before the city. So the city, as you know, receives federal funding from HUD and DCA for CDBG and our recent grant on the East Morris Street project from the ARC. So we're considered a sub-recipient of federal funding. And one of the conditions of the East Morris Street grant was that within 60 days of the grant award, the city was required to submit a language access plan to DCA for approval, which will be applicable to our federally funded programs like this project, as well as CDBG funds. So Resolution 2618 adopts the language access plan that was included in your packets. I think it's about a 6-page document, and its purpose is to ensure meaningful access to municipal programs, services, activities, public participation opportunities, and communications for individuals with limited English proficiency, and the abbreviation for that is LEP. and it's determined for each community by the American Community Survey from the census. And so for our community, the only language that met the parameters was Spanish. And so the language access plan identifies which vital documents the city will translate automatically, like public hearing notices, emergency notifications, fair housing information, program applications, among other things. I also polled the department heads to gather what documents they are already automatically translating, and we made sure to memorialize those things in this language access plan as well. The plan also outlines the types of interpretation services that will be offered. And if approved this evening, the plan will be submitted to DCA for final approval. They have to approve it after the council adopts it. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have, and I appreciate the departments providing feedback on this.
Any questions or comments on this item? Not, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion.
Second.
A second. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Item number 7, Empower Retirement Plan Fee Reduction Contract Amendment. Halima?
Sorry. Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. Human Resources is requesting approval to execute the attached retirement plan fee reduction amendment. And this was negotiated with Empower, our plan administrator. The amendment will reduce record keeping fees for both plans, which is our 457B and our 401A plan, from 20.27% to 0.23%. And this will be for a 3-year commitment period. This reduction lowers administrative costs for plan participants with no change to the current services provided. And the city attorney has also reviewed the agreement, and I'll take any questions if you guys have any.
All right, are there questions or comments on this item? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Is a motion?
Second.
Second, is there any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Halima. All right, item number 8, lease termination agreement between the City of Dalton and Dalton Whitfield Community Development Corporation.
Thank you again. Just wanted to give a little background. The city entered into an employee lease agreement back in December of 2020 with the Dalton Whitfield Community Development Corporation, also known as the DWCDC. Pursuant to our current lease agreement, the city leases 3 full-time employees and 1 part-time employee. The DWCDC desires to terminate the lease to employ their staff directly and have more control over the terms of their employment, which will include compensation and all other associated matters. So both parties agreed on a lease termination with an effective date of August 15th of 2026. During that time, the DWCDC will agree to cooperate with the city and take any necessary actions to ensure the transition of the employees from the city to employees and make them to the DWCDC. The city also agrees to pay all accrued vacation pay to the employees pursuant to the city's policy. And also to our city attorney was involved in the agreement as well. So I'll take any questions if anybody has any.
All right, any questions or comments on this item? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion, a second. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item number 9, Dalton Police Department 2026 to 2027 School Resource Officer Contract. Chief?
Good evening. The item we have before you, item number 9, is the school resource officer contract / agreement for fiscal year 2026 or school year 2026-2027. You'll see this is agreement between Dalton Public Schools, with us and Dalton Public Schools for the upcoming school year, with the agreement commencing on July 1st. The agreement provides for 1 SRO for each of the Dalton Public Schools campuses, and for a total of 10 SROs to be assigned, including the SRO sergeant for the upcoming school year. It's important to note that we actually managed to hit that 10 SRO number during the current school year, and did that with the guidance of the mayor and council and Andrew working with us to do that. So very pleased to be able to tell you that we already have 10 SROs assigned to them and trained for that purpose. Unlike prior agreements that we've had, there are a couple of changes. All of this has been worked through. Jonathan's done considerable work to shore this agreement up so that everything is the way it should be. And you'll see that the cost for the SRO salaries will now be just a set amount that we're paid each year, the city of Dalton, from Dalton Public Schools. That amount will be $625,000 for the upcoming school year, and they will be billed for that amount in February. This agreement also contains the amount that the Dalton Public Schools owes us for the remaining portion of the current school year contract, and that is included in there, and the city should be receiving those funds by August 1st. The agreement's a little longer than what it has been previously. Last year, there were some changes to some of the regulations for school where we had to put some more language about FERPA in there. So we had an agreement and then an addendum that was done a few months later when those changes came into effect. Jonathan has worked all of that into one document, and Dr. Kraft and Andrew are both satisfied with this document, and we present it for your approval this evening.
All right, are there questions or comments on this item?
Chief, remind me what percentage is paid by the school system and what percentage is paid by the city government?
With the agreement that will expire at the end of this month, it was a 75-25 split for the first 7 officers, a 50-50 split for the 8th officers, and the 9th and 10th officer that we put into the schools were never included as any portion of that former agreement. We were directed to put those officers there, and we're able to do it with our staffing. So you had 2 that there was no billing agreement on for this past school year that we put in there right after the first of the year.
And what about going forward for the coming year?
I've
How would-
I've-
how
I've
would
got
break
those,
down?
I've got those figures here, Chief. So it'll be, rather than a 75-25 split, the math works out to about a 54-46% split, with the city covering about 46% of the cost of the 10 SROs. And that meets it's actually more favorable than what we budgeted for this year. We worked closely with the school superintendent to try to get to a number that was working with them and their budget as well as the city. So I think in terms of the city's budget, it's about a favorable budget impact of 70,000.
Are there any other questions or comments? I would just like to, I believe we've acknowledged before at an earlier date when additional officers were added during the school year, but thank you for your leadership and thank you to your department. I know that people worked overtime. They did extra to make that happen, and safety is the responsibility of this entire community, and anything we can do actionably to keep our schools safe, it's, our job to do.
I mean, the truth is, Mayor, if we didn't step up, the school system wouldn't do it and the kids wouldn't be protected. And that ought to just be acknowledged, and I think we should be commended as a city to step up and be sure our children are given protection, even if the school system's not willing to do that. And I think, the next time, heaven forbid, something terrible happens, we'll know that we did what we could do to make our kids safe.
Are there any other comments or questions? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion, a second.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks, Chief. All right, item number 10, memorandum of understanding with North Georgia Tennis Association. Steve?
So, good afternoon. Kind of loud, sorry. So this is we had a MOU with NOGDR, North Georgia Tennis Association, that has been in place, but it hadn't been executed since 2022 that we could find. So, and I wasn't for sure if our mayor, or I'm sorry, our council had seen it. So I just wanted to redo it and kind of get it in front of our council, just make sure they saw it and just form a new MOU just to make sure that everybody was on the same page. And that's what this is. This is just and it should renew itself until there's any problem. So it's just something that is a normal, what they expect from us and what we expect from them.
All right, are there questions or comments on this item? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion, I have a second. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thanks, Steve. All right, under supplemental business, there is none. Announcements, item number 11. City government offices will be closed Friday, July the 3rd, 2026, in observance of Independence Day, and the city council will not hold a meeting on Monday, July 6, 2026. The next mayor and council meeting will be held on Monday, July 20th, 2026. Council members, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
A motion, I have a second. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all.